We're back, and we're looking over the modern ban list to discuss decks that became too overwhelming in the meta and forcing Wizards to step in and ban some specific cards. In today's episode, we're going to look at the only card to be banned twice in Modern.
With the creation of the modern format, 21 cards were initially banned before the meta was even established. This was done based off of legacy play and the old extended format. Wizards even came out and said, "We use two criteria to guide us in choosing what cards to ban. First, we have a rule of thumb about legacy that we don't like consistent turn 2 combination decks, but that turn 3 combination decks are okay. We modified that rule for modern by adding a turn to each side. We're going to allow turn 4 combination decks, but not decks that consistently win the game on turn 3. One such card that was on the initial ban list due to its power and legacy was Golgari Grave Troll. Golgari Grave Troll was initially printed in 2005 in Ravnica City of Guilds. Just like the Ravnica sets printed after, this set depicted a group of guilds with unique characters and cards that fit that specific guild's flavor. The Golgari Swarm introduced a new keyword mechanic known as Dredge. Dredge is a recursion mechanic that allows the owner of the card to pull it out of their graveyard and place it into their hand instead of drawing for turn. They must mill the number of cards off the top of their library equal to the Dredge number, anywhere from 1 card all the way up to 6 cards. At the time when Modern was first created, in August of 2011, Golgari Grave Troll was a mainstay in Legacy Dredge decks. It was originally left out of Modern to allow for a healthy metagame to slowly develop. It took 3 years and 5 months for Wizards to feel comfortable with unbanning Golgari Grave Troll, and in January 2015, Wizards stated that decks that rely on dredging are not currently successful
In the Modern tournament scene. Even though taking it off the ban list has some risk, this is a good time to see what would happen. So what did happen? How did Dredge become so powerful that Golgari Grave Troll had to be banned again? Well, in April of 2016, Shadows over Innistrad was released, and with it, Dredge players got 2 new toys to add to their deck. Insolent Neonate, which was a Dredge enabler that had an activated ability. You discard a card, sacrifice Insolent Neonate, draw a card. In a Dredge deck, this became an instant mill effect on turn 1, filling up your graveyard with 5 or 6 cards, depending on if you were dumping a Stinkweed Imp or a Golgari Grave Troll. The other card, Prized Amalgam, which helped with our aggro game plan. If we had milled a Narcomoeba and returned it to the battlefield, guess what? Prized Amalgam comes along for the ride. Prized Amalgam also works if you brought back Bloodghast from your graveyard. The Dredge deck's game plan was simple. Cast Faithless Looting or Insolent Neonate on turn 1, start the self-mill plan or dredging plan, transition into an aggro beatdown plan long enough to build up, and discard your hand to Conflagrate to finish off your opponent. The deck got another major power-up a few months later in September 2016 with the release of Kaladesh. This time with one of the most powerful Dredge enablers ever printed, Cathartic Reunion, which allowed a player to discard 2 cards, draw 3 cards for only 1 and a red. With Dredge, that often turned into 24 cards being in your graveyard on turn 2 with a double Dredge trigger. With Prized Amalgam and other creatures returning from the graveyard, it often looked like 15 power on turn 3. With so many powerful enablers being printed, Dredge quickly rose to the top of the Modern meta. The deck could easily and consistently set up an overwhelming fighting force even against hate cards like Leyline of the Void. 4 months after Cathartic Reunion was printed, we see Golgari Grave Troll back on the Modern ban list. Without the ability to dredge 6 cards, the Dredge deck slowly fell off from a tier 1 deck. Dredge still exists in Modern today. Players had to slot Golgari Thug in place of Golgari Grave Troll to dredge 4 cards instead of 6. They also got new tools with Axe of Agonas and Creeping Chill, and the main problem with this is that nowadays there are more powerful graveyard hate effects to keep the Dredge deck in check. cards like Dot the Voidwalker or Endurance, but really, losing both Golgari Grave Troll and Faithless Looting slowed the deck down from their normal game plan. Were you around in the year of the Dredge dominance? The mentality for Dredge has always been that it's either overpowered or not even playable. But in a world of Modern Horizons 3, is Golgari Grave Troll safe to unban again, or will it be the only modern card to be banned twice? Thanks for tuning in and watching, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, kind of a look down memory lane, especially with Dredge. I've been enjoying kind of highlighting old decks that don't really seem playable anymore because of bannings and other such things that have taken place, as well as just kind of highlighting the history of Modern, because it's such a cool format to kind of get into and get into that nitty gritty of why decks are viable and playable at this point in time. If you guys are looking for more content than I'm doing, I do have a podcast, NanMan's Nerd Corner, and that's available anywhere that you guys can be able to find podcasts. We talk about all things nerdy, from Magic the Gathering to other video games like Diablo, Baldur's Gate, as well as movies, comic books, anime, all kinds of nerdy stuff. We're looking into starting to get some new guests on the channel as well for you guys to be able to kind of learn their story and their nerd history as well there. But if you guys want to show extra support, we do have a Patreon. We're starting to accept people to support that way, or just, spread the word, let people know about the channel as well. That's a great way to show support without having to spend any money at all. But that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching, and I'll see you guys next game.